Welcome on in. We've got new shit today. We've got 2 new games today, which I've been talking about for a bit. So it's gonna be real good. Last night was funny. I'm gonna be spending each night, get my shit done, and then hop on Dune. I'm just gonna be late night grinder. That's it. When I like an MMO, you can't keep me from it. It's just how it's gonna be. Grinder Supreme is back, but we'll do that after the main shit. Fucking emo. What up, my boy? What up, my boy? We're gonna be so both games today are actually sponsored. I would have liked to like spread them out more, but Mind's Eye came out today, so we're gonna do it the day it comes out. And then the other game, specifically the sponsorship was for today, and that was it. Like, a lot of them have requirements on, you know, what day you do it. So I was like, all right, because the second one's only an hour, so that's fine. And it's a game I was interested in. Actually, both of them were games I was interested in anyway, but the second one especially, I was actually thinking of doing it like on like a Sunday with a bunch of indie games, but then they were like looking to do a sponsorship, so I was like, hell yeah, man. I have seen a couple people that I watch often play through it and like it, so yeah, I wanted to try that. So that's called the Royal Writ. We're gonna do that later. We're gonna start with Mind's Eye today, though, which I'm really excited for. And I gotta tell you, man. Okay, let's go here. Hold on. I gotta tell you, dude. Sometimes when you take a sponsorship, they send you like a PR kit, right? They send you a bunch of stuff, like a box with a bunch of things related to the game. Sometimes they put their game code in there for you, and they make like merch related to the game, and they send it to people who they're sponsoring to play it as a thank you. And I got mine. This it's the most insane PR package I've ever received from a game company, or from any company, really. It's absolutely fucking nuts. So first of all, the box was like 2 feet by 2 feet. It was huge box. I opened it, and like on top is like the normal stuff. They had a t-shirt, they had a hat, they had a hoodie. Hoodie was really nice, actually, like really nice quality, like the slouchy fabric that I like. So I was like, okay, it was pretty like good apparel. I pick up the apparel, move it over, look at what's in there. They gave me a custom wristwatch. Okay, a wristwatch, like a nice corpo looking one, which was like, what? It's like this black metal wristwatch that was in there. I was like, what the fuck? It was huge. And then there was, hold on, I took a picture. There was so much in there. A custom pair of wireless headphones, like earbuds, was in there as well. Like, it was kind of, the more I dug into it, the more it was like tech related. Oh, something that was really cute. They had a lanyard with like the company name. So the company name behind me is like the main company in the game. So they have like a lanyard with the company logo, and then it has like an employee pass. So you have a little thingy, you know, that's like immersive. It was cute. They had they had safety glasses that you could use while like shooting. Oh, that was funny. They had this really nice like cold or hot tumbler to use, like a thermos kind of thing that I really liked. And then the thing that was craziest in here, so I take like these little items out, and there's one like big box left. I grab it and I pick it up so I could see what it is. It's a drone. There was a drone in the PR package. An entire drone. It's one of those ones that can follow you. I was like, what? What? I was Like, what do you mean? What do you mean there's a drone? But it was in the box. So they had like a fancy watch, a drone, wireless earbuds, nicest hoodie I've ever felt in my life, like all this stuff in this box. And I was like, I've never gotten a PR package from a game that is like this stacked. It was crazy. It was crazy. So thanks to them. I mean, that was nuts. Big money. I don't know what that cost him, but you know, it's crazy, my boy. It's crazy. But I'm gonna use it. I don't have a drone until, well, now I do. I had not had one, so yeah. Also want to say, I think it's really funny that the company color that the logo's in, like, matches me. when I walked in here, I'm like in this office sitting here. I was looking at this and I was like, it fits a little too well. a little too good, a little too good. I would say I really like the cube logo, like just a side thing. If you look this way to the cube, you see at the top has like a white S, and then there's an I. Bottom left, that's an L. Bottom right, that's a V. On the right, it's an A. You see that? The logo's within the cube. I really like good graphic design, so I don't know. I looked at that and I was like, ew. Ew. I like the logo. Can't go wrong with gray and red. Never. Never. Never ever. But I don't know, they really went all out. Like, they provided a background. They gave me this crazy PR package and stuff. I mean, I'm down with Silva Corp, man. I don't care if they're... I don't know if they're gonna be evil in the game. I've been trying to not spoil myself, but if they are an evil corporation, I'm down, man. I'm all there. So we'll see, man. We'll see. But yeah, the PR package was crazy. Thanks for the transparency. There is no world in which I don't tell you guys about these things. That's... I never don't mention these things. Glad you loved it. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. It was neat. But yeah, so I've been trying to avoid seeing anyone else play it, so I could just go into it fresh myself. Because I'm really just I'm excited for it. I saw the trailers. I'm a simple person sometimes, okay? Sometimes I just want to play a game where I drive around and I shoot, and I especially want to drive and shoot at the same time, okay? It's something I like. It's one of the reasons I was playing RP servers so much, right? Getting to just, like, drive my whip around, do races, all that kind of stuff. Love it. So, when I saw, you know, who was directing this game, who had directed a lot of games that I liked before, and then I also saw the teasers showing you know, Scourge drifting in, like, a muscle car and shooting out the window. I was like, oh my god. It was made for me. I love this. So, yeah, I've been excited about the game for a while. So I'm glad it's gonna be good. I'm excited to play it, man. I've been mentioning it for a while. I think I started talking about, like, oh yeah, we should look at that. We should play that before the sponsor came through. So I'm just glad, man. Yeah, we're gonna do drive-bys. It's gonna be fun. A nice classic drive-by. Hearts, thank you for the 21 months, and Lair, thank you for 25. We're gonna do a classic. Okay. We're gonna drift around a corner, shoot out a window, blow up a car, keep going, put our sunglasses on. That's what we're doing today. It's gonna be cinema. And it's the same studio that made Hitman, and we played through all the... Or not made, sorry, published Hitman. And we went through all of the World of Assassination stuff. I do actually want to go back and stream Hitman again, but I specifically want to do freelancer mode. So if we get to a point where I've gone through a bunch of games and I'm a little, like, not sure what to do, I might do that. Because I really, really, really like freelancer mode, but I haven't done enough of it. And they keep adding stuff. They're adding Mads Mikkelsen, you know? So we gotta do it, man. We gotta do it. Leo, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Thank you so much. Don't forget, this month, subs are 35% off. And every time you gift me extra subs, I give my cats extra snacks. So do it for Wolfie, do it for Nucky. But yeah, this is a good month to do it because it is a little cheaper for you. A little cheaper. Actually, it's a lot cheaper. 35% is a huge chunk. They're gonna get fat. No, I control their stuff. I control their weight pretty well. They're chilling. They're looking beautiful. Actually, I've been trying to feed Lucky more. He needs to actually get fed slightly more. I don't know. Things change with them over time, you know. Now he needs a little more food. So, more snacks for him, please. I will be giving them to him. Yeah, do it for them. I mean, it's true. Like, anytime I have anything extra, it just goes into some sort of quality of life thing for my cats. Realistically, like, I have some nice cat trees here. I have a huge dog bed that I use for them. I got new toys that I have to replace. I give them snacks. I feed them better food. Like, that's really it. Hi, Katie. How you doing? How you doing? Hope you're well. Seen an article that Aldi's slashing their prices up to 33% on over 400 products. Really? How so? They're just doing that and lowering their profit, or what? Did they, like, change up something major that they're able to do that? Or are they just doing it just cause to get people in? Yeah, for the summer. Huh. Very interesting. Very interesting. Sidekick, thank you for the 15 months. And Derby, thank you for the tier 3 for 18. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. More cats on the mic? Yeah. Yeah, if you keep them fed and happy, I'll get them on the mic more. That's how it goes. That's really interesting that they're just gonna slash prices, but is it at their own detriment profit-wise? Let me see. Aldi price cut. Yeah, wow. Wow. They're doing it on meat, produce, pantry staples, snacks, everything. They're saying this is peak grocery spending months rather, during the summer because of, like, their holidays, gatherings, birthdays, all that. Interesting. Zeg, thank you for the 10 gifted. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Huge. It seems like Aldi's just doing it because people are having trouble affording things. That's crazy. Yeah, the CEO of Aldi, he was like, our customers count on us for the lowest prices of any national grocer every day, and we never take that trust for granted. They might see higher prices at other retailers, but we're trying to get more value for our people, especially for summer with all the holidays and everything. That's crazy. Wow. Wow. We don't see a lot of stuff like that, right? We don't see companies being like, I'm just going to lower prices because people need it. I think we see, like, you know, Arizona iced tea always keeping their prices low, and obviously some retailers have started to bump up the price and they can't really do much about it, but they're trying, at least anywhere where they can, they're trying to keep that shit to $1. And I think that makes sense. I think that makes a lot of sense because then you can keep people's trust, right? It's a good thing. Aldi became expensive. I think it became more expensive than it was, as did everything, but overall it's still cheaper than other places. Maybe it depends on the area. Costco hot dogs, dude. I've always been in areas where we don't really have Costco's, but I've had a couple of Costco hot dogs, like, while traveling. They're so good. They're so good, and it's huge. You just need one. You just need one. You don't need to eat multiple. It's this huge ass hot dog, and it's so good. Oh my god. So fucking good. Yeah, the rotisserie chickens too. Was it the chickens that they legit lose money on? I think the hot dog they don't lose money on, but they don't really have much profit. But the chickens, I'm pretty sure they straight up lose money on rotisserie chickens. But it gets people going in more regularly and then buying from there. So overall, it works. It works for them. So they're not publicly traded either. That's probably a big part of it. I think one of the reasons why so many companies never do that thing of let's just help our customer base out, let's just keep this price low, whatever, is because so many companies are publicly traded. They have investors. They have all these different things going on. And it puts them in a position where they just can't. They just can't. They put themselves in a financial situation where they're beholden to someone else money-wise. And if they're not making more, they get fucked and they go under, or they have to sell their company off or whatever, you know? So they put themselves into that position. So I still think they're to blame. But, you know, when they're in that position, they're doing what they have to do. It sucks. It sucks, man. So the chickens are actually drawn to store. The hot dog's mostly a statement piece. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm pretty sure the chicken's the only one they actually lose money on, but overall they get more. Absolutely. Absolutely. Costco's nice because they'll refund you the difference of your membership cost if you don't spend enough over the course of the year. Yeah, and I heard something like majority of their profit isn't really from their products. The products are priced very normally, but their membership cost is what they actually make money on. That's where it comes from, which I thought was really interesting. Really, really interesting. So shareholders ruin everything. Usually, however, argument, devil's advocate for the sake of arguing, because I've dealt with a bunch of this shit before. A lot of the time, those companies wouldn't exist in the capacity that they do, or be able to expand, or be able to make their product, or whatever it is, without going that route, without taking an investment, or going public. You're saying no one's required to become a public company? It happens more often than you think because they have to. They have to. A lot of companies, this is the thing that they do. They start off as something small and it's maybe a little profitable, but they're scraping by. Then someone comes in and is like, the only way you can have your company expand at all is if you get a cash injection. So there are like only a couple ways to get that, usually investment, you know, trading, whatever. So they do what they gotta do to take that money. And the moment they do that, now they're able to make their company really exist in the capacity they want. However, they're beholden to someone else, and that affects their decision making. It's incredibly rare that you find any companies that are big, right? They have a lot of stores if they're like some sort of retailer, or they're just widely expanded out. It's very rare to find a company like that didn't get there because they got a cash injection. It's so fucking rare. Either they're old money and they've been around for forever, or they are an outlier, you know? So yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, if you just look around you, they're all here because of the same system. I don't know. It doesn't happen very often, man. You said Valve is still like top 10 most profitable companies per employee or something. Yeah, they're like in a really good position, honestly. In a really, really, really good position. I don't know. The dream is to not have to be publicly traded. The dream is to not, well, the dream for the whole company is to not be beholden to anyone else money-wise. But usually the dream for the couple of people that founded something is to go that way. So you can do your project, love it, and then at some point just sell it off, cash out, you know? I did my thing. My time with it was great. And now I'm cashing out and I'm done with it. I'm retiring. Someone else take it. And at that point, they don't care what happens to it as much. So, you know, they sell it off to fucking whomever. And that's just how it goes, man. That's how it goes. So it's like a poison pill, though. Look at Boeing. Airbus recently surpassed them due to Boeing's focus on increasing stock price for shareholders at the cost of quality. Yeah, but that's one case study. That's one. I do have hope and optimism because of things like that more companies that are doing their own thing, not beholden to anyone money-wise, do just kind of make it, right? They do just kind of make it because quality is sought after at times. But it depends. Some industry people genuinely don't care about quality. They keep buying the shitty thing because it's cheaper, because they have no money. It's kind of a cycle that's gonna go forever and ever. Herf, thank you for that 22 months. Thank you. Yeah, Boeing's a weird one. I do feel like that one's a little bit of an outlier case, so I don't like to use that one against everything else. But yeah, I mean, oh, manual rev rate. Well, thanks. We were talking about companies. Yeah, and enshittification. I think enshittification is just something that is, I feel like a natural, I don't want to say natural. Yeah, no, it's a natural thing that's going to happen with the way everything's set up right now. It's, the world is incentivized to enshittify right now, right? Just the way all the systems are currently set up, the way people are able to profit. The end answer to most questions, how do I make more money, is like enshittify your products. Almost always. Take an investment, cut corners, cut costs, sell it off. And that's just kind of how it is. But I do have hope that, you know, it depends on the industry, but certain things, you know, they'll come in and there'll be another company, a competitor that makes the same thing, but they're not publicly traded, not, you know, beholden to investor, whatever. And they show up and they're like, hey, we do the same thing, but at better quality. And there will be times where people just go, you know what, I want that. But I don't think we're there yet because too many people live paycheck to paycheck and can't like do that. It's the Vimes boots theory all over again. It's the Vimes boots shit. Right? You would love to buy that nice pair of work boots that's $150 and not have to buy a bunch of new ones all the time. But you have no point in your life where you can actually put down $150 alone in one go for that. So instead you buy the shitty $20 ones 10 times over. You end up spending more over time, but it's all you can do because you need boots. Right? So I think we're in a scenario where people would buy the quality item and buy less often if they could, but they kind of can't, right? So that's why we're like stuck in the enshittification cycle. That's just how it is. I do also think people spend really poorly, though. I gotta say, I don't want to be too much of a boomer. I've got a lot of friends that are bad with their money. Okay, and people who have good jobs are, by all accounts, by all other indicators, smart. People are really bad with their money. You know how many people in my life pay for like 1,000 subscriptions that they don't need, buy a bunch of shit that they don't use, that they don't wear? It's just, it's insane. It is insane the amount of consumption there is right now. So while I'm not gonna have the full boomer mentality of like, you could afford a house if you didn't eat that avocado toast, like it's not that bad, but you could have a little more money for sure. People don't optimize. They do not min-max at all. I think you gotta go through life financially like you're playing Harvest Moon, okay? And you're like, all right, I could buy turnip seeds today and harvest them on day 3 and get 60 gold per. But if I get those cabbages though, okay, and you calculate for the month the how many times you can harvest those damn cabbages, and you're like, the price per space is better if I only do cabbage meta. You need to do that in your life, all right? You need to do that shit. You ever play any game like that and you find yourself writing down the cost per farming space and you're like, if I do cabbages 4 times and then turnips for the last 3 days because then spring's gonna end. You know what I mean? You just have to do that in life. Go play a farming simulator, okay? And then come back and look at your own finances and go, wait a minute. Wait a minute. No, you legitimately do. You do. You started hard budgeting this last year and holy fuck, you've saved a lot. You know, one of the sites that I think is a pretty good tool, there's one called You Need a Budget. YNAB. YNAB. It's not perfect, but I find it's a pretty good one. You do have to pay eventually to use it, but I think it's a really, really good one and helps you keep track of stuff nicely. I like the UX of using it. This is the one I recommend to friends when they're trying to figure out their shit. They have a really nice mobile app, so when you're out and shopping, you don't forget to put shit into your shit. You know what I mean? You keep track of everything. I think it's actually a really, hashtag not sponsored for YNAB or anything like that, but it's a really good one to track everything well. And I think there are other ones you can use, but you should do that. You should do that. Okay? You should. You played the hell out of Harvest Moon Back to Nature on PS1. I play all of those games, and then when everything kind of switched over and now it's Marvelous Entertainment has I always say Marvelous Entertainment, it's Marvelous Inc. They have, instead of that, they have Story of Seasons. I always play the new ones all the Room Factory games. I play everything like that. I love, like, you know, fucking min-maxing the cabbages or whatever. I love that shit. I love it so much. But I mean, realistically, like, I don't know. You gotta think. That's all. You just gotta think more about what you're spending. He said, finding out the friends in college didn't shop by price per weight blew my mind. Isn't that crazy? I would always think about food as, like, value per amount of caloric and nutritional density you're getting. So, like, you look at spinach versus cabbage. Okay, spinach has more nutrition in it by far. Cabbage is a little closer to crunchy water. Not too bad, though. Cabbage is better than lettuce. Let's say lettuce, because lettuce is like nothing, does nothing for you. So I look at that and I'm like, you know, realistically, I should buy the spinach here and there because it is so much better for me. So if I'm going to spend money on anything, it's going to be that thing. But even then, there's price per weight. How much food am I really getting? Only buy it occasionally because I'm not getting that much food compared to I buy this damn cabbage and I get a lot of stuff for a lot less. You know what I mean? So I would always think of it that way. And that's how I'd rationalize stuff. But, like, I would have friends that would just look at a package of a thing and be like, this is $5, therefore it's cheap. And I would be like, hold on, how many meals do you get out of it? It's not that hard to figure out, but they don't do that in the middle of the store, I guess. I don't know, man. I don't know. So you need a budget also connects to your bank account, so it automatically imports transactions, which is critical and life-saving. Exactly. It does so much of it for you. It's very automated. So that's why I recommend it to friends, because I feel like they're more likely to keep up with it when it does that for you. And this is cabbage. Cabbage. I love cabbage, man. Side note, side thought. I love cabbage. There was a really good comment. Hold on. Yeah, this one. You said, I think people prefer maximizing profits over minimizing costs, and there's not much to optimize income-wise as an employee. Exactly. People think about so much how much they could make when they should be thinking about how much they could not cut into their income, not expense. And then it's this, I think people don't see it as the same shit. In my mind, it's the same shit. If you make $100K and you spend $90K, you have $10,000 at the end of the day. If you make $40K and you spend $30K, you have $10,000, right? Now, obviously, depending on what you're spending on, you might live in a bigger house, etc. Yes. But the most important thing you can do is, this is what you're making. How do you keep the most of it? Not like, how do I get more? No. How do you keep the most of it? That's more important than trying to just go for more, in my opinion. And there's usually more ways you can do that in this world. There are not as many ways in this world you can just be like, let me get more money, right? It's not worth thinking about because there's less control you have over that versus what can I do right now? What can I just not buy? What could I change up so I'm not spending? There's so much more control you have over that. So that always made sense to, you know, focus on a lot. Hi, Milky. But I don't know. People are really bad with money. People are really bad with it. Streamers especially. Streamers especially. I gotta say, it's similar to like people that win the lottery and stuff, right? It usually happens very suddenly to people, and it depends. Some of them have lived adult lives and understand what to do with their money, and then they become streamers. So they have that experience in the back of their minds, right? There are also people that don't really get to live a normal adult life with having to budget for themselves and everything. They just kind of fall into streaming pretty young. And a lot of them do not understand money and personal finance is how we should say it, right? They don't understand how to like run their own household. So it's rough. It's rough. I've helped a lot of friends with it because they just were never taught. They just don't know what to do, you know? It's not necessarily that they're just like stupid. There's a lot of stuff that you don't have that mindset that you should have because no one ever said this shit to you. You know, not everyone has a parent that walks around to the grocery store with them and is like, by the way, I'm choosing this over this because here's the cost differential here. I'm getting more per pound, blah, blah, blah. You know, not everyone has that growing up. So I've been trying to help friends where I can. I try, man. So streaming content creation seems like such a crazy space because I understand reinvesting that money back into the business, but sometimes I wonder if they're saving any money. I gotta say, a lot of YouTubers are really bad with it. They're really bad with it. They do a debut stream and they see how much money they made during that stream. They see how much money they made from their merch line and they're like, yes, yes, that was really successful. It did really well. I'm happy. But then I'm like, don't forget that your model cost you 10K. How much was your background? How much were your new alerts? How much were your emotes? Like every single time you get a bunch of stuff done and ready for a project, those are costs directly related to that project. And then you take the money you make from that and you have to put it next to it and be like, was this worth it? Was it worth it? Personally, I feel like as long as you're not losing, I think it's pretty worth it to do it just because it's fun. It's fun for you and your community. But there's some people that spend more. There's some people that don't actually recoup all the cost, right? And that's one of those things where I'm like, you could have just spent that time into making some sort of really fun YouTube video or some sort of stream idea that takes a bit of prep. You would have made money and had fun doing a project anyway. Like you could have had that. You could have had that, you know? They don't always do it. I think not too many of them are that bad with it, but some are. How much would you factor in future potential benefits through increased reach, etc.? It's one of those things you have to track it over time, right? Let's say you do a debut and you get, 1,000 new people watching, and then for the next 3 months you get like 100 new subscribers that stay. They came in that first day and they were like, I like it here, and they stay. You can take that and put that into like an amount per month and be like, that is long-term benefit. But I'll be honest with you, it usually doesn't do that. I think like when you're a new VTuber or you're like completely changing models, it might be worth spending a lot. But like, I don't know. When you do that stuff more frequently, you have a lot of outfits, etc. Sometimes it's worth it to just not go all out for those things because you just don't. You spend too much. People spend too much. They get too many like new everythings just for an outfit, and I'm like, are you gonna be okay financially? Because I do think you should just do things that are fun for you and your community, yes, but within reason. Sometimes it's like too much, That's why for me, when I do new outfits, I do it on like this same body. I don't get a full new model, a new artist for the base and all that. I try to do it on the same one. I'm trying to like be smart about it, I also have like we did one that was a new outfit, but it was sponsored by Monster Hunter and Capcom, right? They covered that. So that wasn't something that I had to expense out. I did do like my background and stuff, but I didn't have to do an entire new model back to back with another one that I 100% paid for. I genuinely wouldn't have done that if I had to pay for all of it because I wouldn't have been able to make financial sense, So that kind of stuff is like, you gotta be careful with it. You gotta be really careful with it. It's ice soup for the rest of the year, yeah. Yeah, I know some streamers that do live paycheck to paycheck, and they're like, I'm so thankful for my job, I can live. And I'm like, what are you doing long term though? Like, I get really worried for people, Usually they're okay right now, but at some point it runs out and you have to have an exit plan if you're not like saving, You got to think about that. Unless you're able to just do this for 30 years, 40 years, and it works out for you. Maybe. I don't know. But, I don't know, man. So do you worry that some streamers look at the Zens and Mouses and think that means they need to do the same thing to compete? I think that's a huge part of it. Or it's not even just compete, they just look at that and that's the standard. There's, no offense to people, there's so much like monkey see, monkey do in this community, especially like with VTubing. The fact that everyone thinks they need to be a streamer is a perfect example of that. I want to be a VTuber, makes a Twitch channel, starts streaming. Why don't you just make shorts? Why don't you just exist in video form? Some people are better at that, but they don't do that because they're like, I have to be a streamer. And I'm like, no, you don't. But they see other VTubers and they're like, VTubers are streamers. They don't have to be. But you see a lot of that kind of stuff of they see a thing and they go, me too. Boom. Right? You see with the frequency of outfits, they see larger VTubers doing that. They're like, I gotta do that too. I gotta do everything I can to make sure I'm keeping up to that standard. And they really don't. They really don't. Keys and I wasn't a streamer. There's a lot that you can do that is just, yes, you're a VTuber, but you don't have to be a streamer at all. You know? I don't know. But you see a lot of it. I just wish people would like close their eyes, expand their mind, you know, think beyond a little bit. You see, I could also see too many outfits or models being a drawback eventually because it could feel like there's no coherent style / brand. Yep. It actually does, it does work as a detriment to you. It does. It's important to do everything you can to keep your brand cohesive and to keep yourself recognizable. Some people do outfits that are so far a departure from their normal style. They don't keep it within a slight theming. And people will look at it and be like, who is this for a second? Right? And like this outfit that I have is wildly different from my OG outfit. But there are a lot of things that we keep in common, a lot of themes that we keep similar. My hair hasn't changed that much. You know, there's certain things that I don't adjust too much. That way, it's still recognizable. And yeah, it's kind of important to do that, I feel. It is. Is it in you? How are you doing financially? Okay. I think the amount that comes in is not bad, but the amount that goes out is a lot. It's a lot. You know? And there are some things that I like wanted to do. So I feel like just living off of this is okay, but I'm trying to like do well for the future. There's a lot that I want to be able to do that I think I'll be able to do in the future, but I can't do right now. That should set me on that path, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, what'd you say, O'Shea? I think people don't realize that there's no retirement plan for content creators who don't blow up. Yeah. I think for me, people don't... How do I say? They think I make more than I do, is what I feel. I think they think I make more than I do. I don't. But on top of that, I have a lot of expenses. I've always taken care of some family members, which is why I say like there's a lot going out. There are other people that I take care of directly with that. Always have been. And then I've always said this. My ultimate goal that I'm working toward is I want to be able to take care of my parents specifically as they get older. I don't think any of my other siblings are going to be in a position to really do that well. We're all going to try and do it together, so it'll be good. But no one sibling of mine, 2 siblings of mine, anything like that are going to be able to just take care of it. A lot of that is going to be on me. And like I said, I don't come from a lot of money. Us kids of my parents are going to have to take care of them. So for me, that's a big... I don't want to call it a burden, but financially it's a burden. That's always going to be on me. So yeah, for that reason, like I say, yeah, there's a lot going out. There's a lot that needs to like be considered with all that. On top of that, I mean, don't forget I had all my health crisis that took me a very long time to get that all paid off. I had to quit my normal job to be able to take care of myself health-wise. And there was a lot that was not covered that I had to pay completely out of pocket, which is crazy that you could go to your healthcare system, right, and be like, hi, I have cancer. And they'll be like, I won't cover that, though. Haha. Did you, though? Give us all the paperwork for that. Oh, you did? Okay, well, you're alive, so we're not going to give you as much. You know, it's like that experience was really bad financially. Aside from it being even worse in every other way, but the financial part was on top of all that, you know? So, yeah, there's a lot that I was taking a long time to cover for that, along with taking care of other people, along with, you know, everything. So it's rough, man. It's rough. But yeah. Yeah, I have cancer. Psych. Yeah, I mean, they especially a lot of the follow-up care, the post stuff, they like didn't want to take care of. Even my surgery itself, they didn't want to cover all of it. Even though I and the doctors were like, this is a life-saving surgery. They were like, going into semantics about it. Dandruff, thank you for the 20. Thank you. Thank you for the 20, Dandruff. I appreciate it. Yeah, they were basically pointing out every single reason why a surgery to remove a cancerous mass was like not dire and needed and every little thing. So that way they could get out of paying for all of it. So because I had a really complex surgery and there were a bunch of like different mini procedure names occurring within one, yeah, there was a lot that just didn't get paid for, and I had to just cover it myself. Even though it was like all part of one surgery, it was all part of one thing, and all of it was necessary to get that shit out of me so it didn't spread and I didn't die. You know, it was still like they were getting into some real semantics with it. It was crazy. Yeah, unnecessary care. Right. Like there were some things that were removed because they were next to everything that were infected. They had to go. They were compromised. And maybe we didn't swab it and find a cancer cell in that spot, but it still needed to be removed because of the risk level. With that stuff, they didn't want to cover that. They didn't want to cover it. If it wasn't literally the cancer mass, they were like, insane. It was insane. So, yeah. We think you should have had an everythingectomy. No, it was more like they covered the cost of just like anything listed as like touching the mass directly, but there was a lot of stuff that needed to get removed that was like basically touching it, but like wasn't the mass itself. And they just didn't count it. They just didn't count it. And I remember sitting in an office with someone talking about these costs. And I was like, hey, I had a mass and it was surrounded by a thing. And that thing was holding in all of the cancer cells once we did all of the, you know, testing and everything. And I was like, that whole thing needed to be removed because that mass and all the fluid inside of the sac, you know, that the mass was in, whatever, was all compromised. It's impossible for us to remove the mass and everything inside the sac, but leave the sac there and not have some cancer cells still exist. And they were like, yeah, but it's not the mass itself. And I was like, what? But it had to be removed as part of the whole thing. This is all part of a procedure. And they were like, yeah, but that's not the mass. Like they just kept going, yeah, but. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And I was like, but the liquid had free-floating cancer cells in it that could have just gotten out into my body and attached anywhere. Like, you know, I was like, is that not concerning and dire and critical? And they were like, it's not the mass though. That was literally the answer I got for everything, which was insane. They were like, yeah, so we won't cover it. Like, what? So I had to pay out of pocket for all of these like specific parts, these ectomies and things, etc., within that surgical procedure. That was nuts. Did you put the extra costs on credit cards? I would never have been able to cover the costs with limited credit cards. I did put some stuff on a card and got my damn 2% back on some little things, but I don't know. I would have had to have so many cards maxed out if I was gonna pay for that shit. It was a lot of money, okay? it was not just the procedure, it was a lot of the post care, the medication, the everything. It was nuts. It was nuts. But I got that damn 2% back on that one card that I maxed to like 10K or some shit. I don't remember what number it was. Did what I could, man. You said that's crazy that insurance companies are allowed to gerrymander an illness. That's literally what it was. I was sitting there and I wasn't even fully recovered. I was sitting there sick as a dog, post-surgery, could kind of move but not really, with a pack in my hands, flipping through it and underlining every part of the procedure and going, I want this covered because of this. It was dire. My doctor said so, signed off. And they'd be like, and then they pull out their chart and start drawing on it and be like, this is why it's not. It was crazy. It was crazy. Like a good example, I don't mind talking about this stuff. A good example is, so the mass and the thing around it, whatever, was definitely like one of my ovaries that had turned into a monster, right? They removed that. They had to also remove that side fallopian tube and a chunk of my uterus on that side. Just not a huge one, but because there was an infection resulting from everything. And it was something that had gone on for so long that those tissues were messed up, okay? They should not have stayed. Needed to be removed. Totally fine, because it wasn't so much that everything is like majorly affected. My body is not really affected by this. Like at the end, after healing, it's really not. Like, so I was like, yeah, that makes sense to just take out. But because it wasn't like something that like removing one side fallopian tube would like critically affect me forever, they wouldn't cover it. And I was like, but it was horrifically infected, and if we didn't remove it, it would have become necrotic, eventually died off. And leaving an infection in your body that's not going away, boom, you become septic and you die. Like literally, like had to be removed. And they were like, what if they put you on antibiotics for 6 months? I was like, what? Like we were never gonna do that. What do you mean? Like the tissues were so destroyed. And they were like, but did you try it? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? It was crazy, man. It was one of the most insane experiences of my life. Probably will be the most insane experience of my life. Hopefully. Hopefully. But it was crazy, man. Are they doing gold level mental gymnastics? Yeah, they were pole vaulting over all these explanations they were giving. Yeah, exactly. They were basically saying, like, if I had left it in my body, infected, destroyed tissues, everything, and then it became septic, then, or I had like become septic due to it, then they would have covered that. And I was like, so you're telling me I needed reason number 2 to think I'm dying to get that covered? Crazy. So I was just like, okay, I'll pay. Like, what can I do? You know? So it was such a weird experience sitting there and just going through all the little things one by one and articulating to them why it could have killed me, and them being like, but you didn't die though. Like, oh man. And the thing is, all of my doctors and medical staff were great, and were arguing for me, and were signing off on papers, and were doing the procedures as best they could, trying to help me cut the costs by not doing unnecessary shit. Like, all of my medical staff were incredible. Okay, they were all great. They weren't the problem. They weren't the problem. And they were recommending all these different things that we should do to make sure that I don't have problems in the future. Like, they were genuinely wonderful. But yeah, they also hated the situation I was in. They were crashing out for me. One of my nurses, the nurse that took care of me post surgery, and I had to sit with her, and she was like writing up a letter of what the immediate post-surgery care was like, how I refused certain medicines, took these ones, blah, blah, blah. You know, she was signing off on everything and going over it with me. And she in particular was so mad going over everything. She was like, I don't know. She looked like she was about to legitimately like Hulk out. She was so angry. But she did say, you know, she's like, yeah, it was more common than you think. But she said it's a big problem when you have complex surgeries that have a lot of different line items of what they've done within the procedure, instead of like just one thing. You know, that just is what it is. She was like, your surgery was really complex. They went in there, but they did a lot of mini procedures within one, and you know, they love to pick that apart. And I was like, Jesus. So it is how it is, and it is how it is. Sounds like you need a lawyer just to sit in on that discussion. You think at that moment in time I would have had like the money to sit there and bring a lawyer into? I was not doing shit that wasn't necessary. Want to hear Buddha on a call with your insurance provider? Oh, just full carroting out. No, I'm talking about it like very calmly at this point. I was not that nice when it started going that direction. I was not that nice. At some point, they kept trying to get me on the phone instead of in person because I was... Look me in the eyes when you say that, you know? Like... Oh, it was bad. It was bad, dude. I loved my nurse, though. She was so great. Look me in the eyes when you tell me my dying fallopian tube wouldn't have killed me. Look me in the eyes when you say that. After my doctor told me it would have killed me. You know? Say it to my face, yeah. Yep. It was dying, you know? I mean, you know how many times I sat there in that office going, the tissues were dying. I was like... Oh, man. My doctor was great, though. You never go to one of those medical bill settling services? They negotiate, try to lower the total. I did everything. I trust and believe. I did everything. I did everything. I asked all of my medical staff for their opinions on what I should do with that, and I was able to get the best situation for myself. Absolutely. However, the best situation for me was still a lot to pay out because the procedures I got, it was a lot of stuff that we had to do. It was a lot of testing. So much money in bills for the lab work. So much money was lab work. And lab work, you can get like the very basis covered, but all of the extra testing to be thorough, to be like, you know, sure, things won't come back in this way or that way, or testing every bit of tissue, etc. That stuff was not covered. And that was just, that was a lot. That was a lot. I think it was the lab work and some of the follow-up medications and care that stuff was really expensive. It was more of the surgery itself I was able to eventually get kind of covered, but yeah, that was the stuff I could argue was like life-saving, quote unquote, but the later stuff was rough. It was rough. So anyway, gift subs are 35% off. But we really did try, man. We really did. Love June. Woo. Woo. Hey, Drafty Snowman. Thank you for the 20. Thanks, guys. Blazing, Comrade, and Lunar, thank you for the 5 gifted subs each. Appreciate it very, very much. Very much. Thankfully, I'm not having a huge medical crisis right now. Yet, wink, we never know. But right now, I'm not paying for anything other than my regular lab work, which is expensive. It is expensive, but it's not me cubing an entire mass and paying per slide of the mass getting tested. It's, you know, it's eight vials of blood each time. Blood work. Not so bad. Not so terrible. We might have to do a biopsy of something and check, and that will be expensive, but that's it. That is what it is. 8, I know. I know, we gotta check everything. We gotta check every cancer marker. They check, like, levels of all these different things. They need a whole-ass vial per thing. They check, like, inhibin A and B. It's, like, all this shit. It's all this shit. Dervington, thank you for the 20. Thank you so much. Maki, thank you for 33 months. Q-Tip, thank you for 5. Cave, thank you for 10. Appreciate you guys very much. Very, 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 very much. Always. Yeah, they take a gallon of blood from me. That's the current medical stuff I really have to keep up with money-wise. It's my blood work to check up, because anytime you have cancer, you have to do blood work for the next 5 years minimum to make sure that things aren't coming back. So far I've been fine. However, the type of cancer I had, high chance, high rate of coming back for people, typically. Now, the way mine manifested and the way it was and everything doesn't give me too much major concern that it will come back on the other side. But typically when you get on one side, you end up getting it on the other two at some point. But usually that's because of it spreading a little easily, whereas we were able to get in there without it having spread in that route. So should be okay, probably. But, you know, that's why I keep up on doing all this testing. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I will fucking pay for the blood work. They asked me if I wanted to only do it for like 3 years. And I was like, there is no way. There is no way I'm not doing the full thing. When I look at the rates of things coming back and how many years they tend to come back within, and like within 5 years is a big range, not just within 3. I was like, no, no, I have to do this. You know, even my doctor was like, you have to do this. Like if you don't want to pay for it, I will understand. But if it were up to me, I'd be sending you for an MRI every 6 months. And I was like, okay. So I do my due diligence, you know. Tempted to remove the other ball too when you had surgery? No, absolutely not. I wanted any reason to keep it. I would love to not have to deal with menstruation. So there's that factor. I would love to remove everything. That would be great. But we removed one ovary, right? The other ovary, hey, appreciate that. Thank you for the $10, Taka. Thank you. When you don't have any, you miss out on a lot of hormone production. And it does things like give you early onset osteoporosis, for example. When women get, this is something that a lot of girls, they're like, I don't want to have kids, so I'm going to get everything removed, haha. And I'm like, that's not your only function, okay? There's a lot of hormone production, and those are not only for things related to having kids. It's a lot of bodily function as well. And women have issues with bone density and all that. Having ovaries, or at least one, because one, if you have one, it does like 99% of the production. Holy shit, Copper, thank you for the 100. Jesus, thank you. Hey, reminder, I get like 98% of the tip money. They only take a credit card fee. Reminder. So I appreciate that a fuck ton. The Stream Elements pay is like really good like that. They only take the credit card fee, which is wonderful. So yeah, it's appreciated more than you know. Very much so. But yeah, I never got the other one removed because you end up with so many other health problems from not having to. And, you know, we tested things within my blood, different levels of things, whatever. And they were like, if you removed both, you'd probably have osteoporosis within 10 years. And I was like, yeah, there's no fucking way. And they said even if you take supplements to keep up with stuff, it's not the same. It's never the same as having it produced like locally within your own body and regularly the way it's produced as well. They're saying that supplement form just doesn't do it the same. So I said, okay, all right. And that's just one of the issues that you can get related to it. There are a lot of problems related, so hey, if you have any women in your life who are like, haha, I don't want to have kids, I should just get everything removed, I should get a hysterectomy, make sure they research all of the side effects related to that. All of the side effects, because there is so much issue that can develop afterward if you get rid of, you know, these things when it's like not necessary. If it's necessary, it's necessary, and you do what you got to do. But if you don't have to get rid of it, don't. And it's not about kids. It's not about that. It's about your health, straight up. But yeah, so I didn't get any other stuff removed. We only removed what was necessary. Is it possible to just kind of snip the fallopian tubes like what guys can do? They don't snip it. They tie them. They tie them. You ever hear getting your tubes tied? They tie it in a way so that an egg cell can't pass through it. But its blood supply comes from the fallopian tube, so you can't like. I think it depends on the person. They don't really, they just kind of like do the thing. So isn't it better to get the implant thing instead of actually remove them completely? That way if you change your mind, it's reversible. Yes, but there, oh my God, if we get into a full women's health discussion, I might crash out. There are so many methods of contraception that are easy and great, but they manifest so differently in people and how they affect them. You're talking about an IUD, the little implant. It's awful sometimes for some people and great for others. Puckhead, thank you for the 5 gifted. Thank you so much. I know she thanked you for this, but thank you so much for the gifted. I appreciate it. IUD. So for a lot of people, it's the best option. They just throw that in there. It releases hormones locally so that you don't do certain things, certain functions, and you're good. It's the best solution because you can leave in there. It's effective for years. You don't have to actively take a pill. You don't have to, like you can't slip up. It will just work. However, sometimes they affect you with those local hormones in ways that are really bad. Some women just don't react well to them. There are different ones that use different types of hormone. There's even one that's just copper, and it just having copper present in that area inhibits certain things. So there are different types you can try. Some people end up with like way worse periods, and it becomes like unbearable for them when they were fine before, for example, and it just isn't worth it. Some people just get sick. But also there's a lot of debate that when they insert it and they put it in there, they lie all the time. Okay? They tell people, they're like, this shit ain't gonna be bad. You're gonna feel a little pressure, maybe a little pinch. But almost everyone who talks about it is like, that shit was the most painful thing I've ever dealt with. Or people saying, I don't understand why they wouldn't sedate me during it. They don't give you anything, by the way. They're like, just take some ibuprofen after. Okay. They throw some shit straight through a hole that is barely there. Barely there, okay? Your cervix, right? It doesn't open up for this. It doesn't open up. Not to get too graphic. Imagine like your urethra. It's like smaller than that, okay? It's smaller than that. They're trying to put a thing in there. It is not good, okay? It is not good. Big enough for a baby? That is only when it is affected by local hormones when your body is excreting them. Then it moves around and does stuff. But up until then, it don't do that because it has to hold shit in until then. So it doesn't work like that. Yeah, it's an involuntary muscle. Exactly. And so, yeah, it's like a kidney stone, right? It's a lot like that. It hurts people, and they don't give people anything for it. Like they just don't. So a lot of women really want those because it's like objectively the best form of everything, because you just have a thing placed and then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about like, oh, if I take my pill at the wrong time, it kind of slips up or something, like you don't have to worry about any of that. But it can be, not for everyone, but it can be so painful that people are just like not willing sometimes. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't fuck with that. I don't fuck with that. I don't like that. I don't know, man. Is it even, oh, you had a urethroskopy and they gave you numbing gel for that. Right, that's the thing, is like a lot of people are like, can we just do like a numbing gel or something? Like, they just don't. They just don't. I don't know, man. It's crazy. I said female condoms blew your mind when you saw one. Never realized how big ladies' willies are. Okay, again, without getting graphic, basically it's just an area with a bunch of muscles around, and it's quite compact normally, and then when certain hormones are excreted and things, those muscles like relax, and there, depending on the woman, there can be a lot of capacity. It depends on the person, but yeah, it like moves and changes a lot. Same way some dudes are like growers. It's like that, but opposite. it's like that, but reversed. Like the cavity can grow, if that makes sense. or the capacity of it by how much the muscles relax because of locally excreted hormones and stuff. It's really interesting. I love these conversations. I just, I'm always like trying to be good about it on Twitch, because if you're having a clinical discussion, they're really cool with you saying anything, but you never know. You never know. I don't know. I find it interesting though, because people like don't talk about these things as much because they're like, haha, pee-pee, or whatever. And then people don't know shit. They don't know how it works. It's so stupid. It's one of those things where like not knowing how it works can be really dangerous. I don't know, man. I don't know. Mel is great for this as well. Yeah, Mel is very, 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 very well versed in how things work. And so if you have questions, like genuinely go ask Mel straight up. And she loves the topic. She loves the topic because her main thing is she just wants, the stigma around people being educated about it gone. Like you should, it's the same thing as studying how your fucking lungs work. It's just a thing in your body. So it's good. But yeah, Mel's a really good one to be like, Mel, how does this work? And she explains it very well. She really does. You're saying, Rico, yours is good for another 2 years, good for regulating period, but results may vary. Yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of issues. Now I know it was because I had cancer. I didn't know at the time. I had a lot of issues with things becoming irregular, like getting shit was getting weird, okay, with some of my symptoms, with like my cycle. And I was like looking into all these options and nothing worked for me. Everything caused me some horrific side effect or was awful. And I was like, I hate this so much. And I didn't try every little variation of everything. At some point I gave up when I found out I had a medical issue, and I was like, let me get that fixed. But yeah, I dealt with that for a really long time. And like, I don't know, so many options just were not working out for me, man. They just sucked. They just sucked. Yeah, it was getting weird, boys. Getting weird. So hopefully we'll drop the religious prudism sometime as a society, because I'm super over it. Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I was raised like in a way where like, not you don't talk about these things, but like you don't need to get like sexual with it. It was just medical talk or being matter of fact and adults, I do wish people would have a little shame about some of the fucking shit they say. All right, I'm still gonna stand by that. But when you're talking about something medically, or you're just educating on someone on how a thing works, so that they understand how it works, and you're not being crude just to be crude, like you're just talking about it, you should be able to talk about it. You should be able to talk about it. It doesn't have to be like entirely clinical, like not shame but tact. Yeah, people just need to have tact. But like I'm tired of it too. I remember in school they put you in classes where you talk about these things. Well, not everywhere, but most states in the US, they talk about these things. And I remember teachers asking questions, and the answer would be the name of some body part that a kid wouldn't want to say. And I had no shame in saying it. I didn't care, because I was like, this is just how this works. And everyone should be able to talk about this stuff. Or what are you gonna do when you have a wife? Like I would be like, what are you gonna be like when you whisper pee pee to her or something? Like, what do you, maybe you do. But I was, so I would raise my hand and I'd say the answer. And I remember so many kids in the classes just being like, oh my God, I could never say that. And I'm like, what are you gonna do when you get older, dude? Like, what? You gonna be like this forever? You're gonna look like an idiot. Yeah, wee and hoo-ha, stuff like that. Exactly, man. I thought it was so stupid. Because I was like, you got to get desensitized now, because if you don't, then... Imagine kids in high school still fully giggling about this. What about when they have, like, some girlfriend in college, and they're like, oh my God, this is my moment. Or maybe when they're 25, oh my God, this is my time, but they're still in the ha-ha pee-pee phase because they can't say these words because they're not desensitized. All right, they're having this experience, and she asks a question, and they realize, oh my god, to answer this question I have to say one of those words I've never said because I'm so scared of saying it. Like, I think you should just be desensitized talking about that stuff earlier so that, like, you know what I mean? Like, so you don't have to get embarrassed, man, because it's not embarrassing. It's fine. I don't know. I always felt like the teachers didn't do a good job of desensitizing the kids from being able to talk about this stuff because they didn't shut down, like, the reactions. You'd always get this. A teacher would be like, what is this called? And it would be like the testicles, right? And some kid would go testicles, and everyone would go, haha, and they'd be like, oh, grow up. You know, like they'd be like, whatever, you guys are gonna have to talk about this in 10 years. And they would have like this negative reaction. And I felt like that made it worse. You know what I mean? I felt like that didn't help. Whereas if they were just like, hey man, that's what they're called, you know, it is whatever. Anyway, hey, let's say it 10 times together. Let's just do it. Let's get it out. If they just made it like a non-negative experience, I think everyone would have been fine. But they just, I don't know, like the negative reaction made it worse, I felt. Right? I don't know. I should start the class by making them play the penis game. I know a teacher who did that. It wasn't in my class. It was in like a friend's class. They had like a different teacher for it. And they actually made everyone do it. And they're like, we're just going to do this. Everyone's going to have to say it. I thought that shit was so funny. But it was a good way to make that experience like fun for them and not like negative, you know? So, I don't know. Motherfuckers be like lamel vagina while their wife is staring at them. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, get that shit out of you when you're younger. Like, being able to not be embarrassed anymore about talking about it. So that way you can actually, like, know things without it being weird. I don't know, man. I don't know. Ryuko. Like the McDonald's thing. Yeah, there's a camera watching you right now. You have to stand up and yell a funny word. You have to name one reproductive organ and then the stream will continue. It's the only way to stop the ads. Oh my god, I wish. There you go, Meowsers, there you go. Peanuts. Exactly. Ooh, this is a good point. Yeah, you said your grief with your sister is that she says her kids have to quote unquote grow into being able to talk about certain things, and you keep telling her desensitization is something you have to work on actively, not a magical thing that just happens. Yeah, I think a lot of parents, which I don't blame them, I think they don't want to deal with being the one to talk to their kids about this stuff. So they're like, it'll just happen through school. They'll just grow up and say it eventually, like I did. And so they just don't do anything. They don't teach them anything. I don't know, man. Not good. Not good. I think some of them don't realize how bad they had it too. Like they don't realize. I think people are really bad at accepting that they are not well versed in a thing, or they did not learn something the right way, or their mindset isn't right, or something like that. Like when you tell someone there's something wrong with the way they were raised at their core. Or, you know, something like this. It's like, oh yeah, you weren't desensitized about these things and you should have been. If people can't accept that shit like ever. So I get it. Like, I get it. They think that what they've been doing is like totally fine. Well, I'm alive right now and not dead, so everything that happened to me in my life is totally fine and normal. You know, it turns into that. I don't know, man. Growing up, you were only allowed to say the medical names for your privacy. When you would say it in school and get in trouble, your mom would go off on the teachers. Good times. I was the same. I was told, like, you can say non-medical words for it, like if you're telling a joke, but when you're just talking about it because you need to talk about it, you use the medical terms that you're like super clear, and so that people understand it's like a serious, like, normal discussion. And yeah, I experienced that too. Of people being like, you can't say that. And I'd be like, that's a medical term. I can fucking say that, actually. It was weird, man. It was weird. I don't know. You learned all the medical stuff about reproductive organs before you learned about sexual stuff, which meant you never really had an issue saying those words without laughing or any discomfort. Yeah, I think that's the right way to do it. You just teach it medically. You don't have to get into like all the real like sexual education parts of it until much later. Like you don't need to teach that to kids at all, you know? Like you just let them know that exists. It exists, and then you warn them about certain things that they need to be warned about. But you don't have to go into detail. You know, you don't have to have them see certain things. You can just be really medical up until that point is like fine, you know? For the love of God, you teach them to keep those areas clean. That's so true. You know, people don't. You know, many girls think it's fine to just use soap everywhere, not realizing that like it actually fucks your shit up because no one ever told them. And it's just a clinical discussion. It's nothing sexual. You're just like, hey, don't use soap there. It has a more acidic pH, and the balance of things can get off if you use soap. Don't do it, just rinse. That's all you gotta say. That's not even an awkward conversation, in my opinion. That's like really unawkward compared to all the other conversations you have related to that stuff. That's all you gotta say, man, but people don't do it. Yeah, your humors will be set off. It's nothing crazy, man. You just have to like be like, yo, don't use soap there. It's bad. If you want to know more, here's an article. You don't even have to like say it. You can just be like, I want you to read this. You need to know about this. I think another thing is parents are too afraid to tell their children that they're embarrassed to talk about something. My mother was always really honest with that because she herself is not the best about talking about some of those things, like, too directly. If it's medical, clinical, she can talk about it, but when it's something beyond that, she's a little like, you know, like, she's like, you should keep that to yourself. She's one of those. So she would, if she needed to say something to me, she wanted to, like, let me know about a thing, she would preface it by being like, hey, by the way, I find this embarrassing to talk about, so bear with me here. She would say that because she was always, like, pretty properly vulnerable with me, her own kid, you know? And I feel like a lot of adults don't do that. It's like, I don't know, it's almost like they feel like they're losing if they're like that with their kid. Like they have to portray themselves being perfect and not, you know, nothing embarrasses me, nothing, I don't know. It's weird, but a lot of parents are like that. But no, my mom was just like, hey, I need to say this, but it's a little awkward. Sorry if I'm using weird terms. Just ask questions and I'll answer them, you know? She was good like that. You had a pretty good mom, it sounds like. Not to brag, I had the best mom. She has her own flaws, but they're not related to stuff like that. I think her biggest flaw turned out to be something that was good for me. It's that she's a bit passive. Like, you could spill hot soup on her lap and she'd apologize to you. She'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for existing in your space. You know, like, she's very, like, very accommodating for everyone, very kind, very nice, and way too patient. So I learned to be a bit more assertive because I would get really frustrated watching her, like, not assert herself enough. She would in certain ways, but then in other ways she wouldn't. So I became a bit the opposite in a lot of situations because I would get pissed. Like, if we had to wait online, if we had to wait in a waiting room for something, and we had to sit there and wait for an hour, she'd just sit there and look at me and be like, it's been a long time. She wouldn't go up to the desk and be a little bit of a Karen and be like, hey, we've been here for 30 minutes. Can we get an update? Like, she wouldn't even do that because that's a little confrontational, you know? Like, and she would avoid that as much as possible. So I would do it instead. I would walk up to the counter and be like, it's been 30 minutes. And like, I think I learned to be more assertive because I would get so frustrated watching her be like that, being too patient. And I'd be like, well, she'd be like, I could wait for an hour. It's okay. And I would go, oh, well, I don't want to. And I would go up to the counter and say shit. So, you know, that just is how it is. It is how it is. I said, nope, mine was the best. You can beat up your mom. Ryuko said, my mom's too nice. That's why I grew up to be an asshole. Same. No, I think it really trains you to do that because you watch in real time someone being too passive and too nice, and it affects you when you're a kid. Because then, like, if you weren't willing to do something because you're watching your parent be like, oh, it's okay, you're like, I want to be defended, though. And then the parent is like, you're gonna be fine. You can have patience. Then you're like, no, I don't want to. And you kind of learn to like stand up for yourself despite them, which can manifest well, can be really bad. Some people become like huge assholes because of it, but I think if you have a good parent, like, you know, they're doing it out of kindness, then it, you know, usually turn out pretty good from that. Typically. Yeah, she's the type, if she ordered food and it came out wrong, she'd just eat it anyway. She'd be like, I don't want to make them do it again. I don't want to make them cook for me again. Which is crazy. I would be like, now, if it's just something I don't mind, it's okay. But if I said, don't put this in here, I'm allergic to it. Or don't put this in here, I hate it. Like capital H, I hate it. Then I'd be like, hey, I asked for none of this. Sorry. Sorry to make you make it again. But, you know, and I wouldn't do it if I said, like, give me this burger, no tomatoes. You can grab a tomato and pull it off with your fingers. That's fine. But if it's something that, like, you can't reverse it, like, you know, if you can eat around it, I wouldn't ask for it. But, like, within reason. But my mom would eat stuff that she fucking hated because she didn't want to make the chef cook again. I was like, I don't know. And the thing is, it would make me so mad because we never really went out to eat very much at all. This would be like the third time within a year maximum that we'd be going out to eat food ever. And it would be because of an occasion. And I would be like, you got to make this good, okay? Don't accept this. And she would be like, I don't want to bother the chef. Anyway, that's why I'm assertive now. It's because of that. It's because of that. You had it the other way? Your dad had no patience and made you the opposite? My dad has some patience, but I think I ended up like him. Pretty patient, but within limits, and once the limit is hit, immediately switch is flipped. Hey, I need to do this now. Not mean about it. Not a Karen about it. Just, this is what I need. Sorry. Within reason. That's just how it is, man. That's how it is. Ooh, you're worried that if you send food back, you're worried of the risk of it being mishandled? Yeah, I get that. I get that. Your dad also has no patience. Yeah, mine. He has limits, but he's pretty understanding. He is. But he's also like not picky, so he's not the kind of person where, let's say we're in a restaurant, we'll use the restaurant scenario again. If they get his food wrong, he's not allergic to anything. He likes almost all foods. Even something he doesn't like, he'll just tough it out. He doesn't care. So, like, he's never in a situation where he has to do that, you know? So you put any food in front of him, he'll be like, okay, and just eat it. So there aren't too many scenarios where I had to see him, you know, complain to someone or anything. He would just go crazy with it. That's just how it is. Milky, welcome back. She's alive. Thank you for the raid. Thank you for the raid. Welcome on in, raiders. We're gonna play a game very soon. Welcome on in. Talking about parents, and I was talking about how my mom was super patient and my dad was normal patient. Talking about how that like affected how we grew up. I was saying my mom was so patient that she would let you drop hot food on her and she'd apologize to you. And that had me grow up to be the opposite, where I would be like, yo, man, that's not cool, because I would watch her get, like, shit on. And she'd be like, it's okay. It's totally fine. Everything's fine. We were talking about that. I was also talking about how kids can't say the word vagina without laughing. And you should just make your kids... I don't know how many of you have kids, but you should just make your kids say shit. Desensitize them easy. Make them watch Animal Planet, man. It's the strat. Ooh, you know how you could teach your kids about these things without, like, freaking them out? Get them really into, like, ranching. So they learn about, like, animal husbandry. Right? And you're just like, yeah, this is how farmers do it. And then they'll put it together in their heads. They'll be like, oh, but you don't have to sit there and sit them down and be like, so this is how it works, you know? I think that's the strat, man. That's the way. You're talking about your mom and dad too? I feel like I talk about my family all the time. On stream all the time. Ranching. Say yay, rectum. No, it's good. It's good to know, man. It's good to know. I think it could be horrifying though, because some animals do some shit that's crazy. Crazy. But I think it's good. I think it's good. It's good to know about. But I don't know. Some animal habits are kind of nuts. You know what show is okay? You know what show is like really messy? Like the show is terrible, but I watch it on Netflix when I'm like ready to pass out and I just want something on. I've been rewatching this old show. Do you remember Millionaire Matchmaker? With that lady Patty? That show was so overdone and so fake, but it was like great slop TV. Great slop. So I've just been like leaving that on if I'm sitting there on the couch with my cats late at night and I'm like playing something on my Steam Deck, you know, I'm chilling. I want background noise. I've just been putting that on. One of the dudes on the episode I was watching last night, this dude, young millionaire, is like 24, crazy, net worth of 1.5 mil because he made some little shipping company and moved to LA, whatever. He's like a country boy. And he's like, I'm a country boy and I'm from Tennessee and I want to find a nice country girl in LA and I want to bring her back one day when I'm done with LA to Tennessee. And of course, Patty's like, okay, I'll find you that in LA as best I can. You know, she looked like her like soul was dying. She's like, I'm going to do my best. He finds a girl who's like pretty nice and she actually does love that stuff. She's probably a horse girl. They didn't talk about horses on the show, but like probably a horse girl, you know? She goes on the date with him that he sets up for her. He brings her to this animal sanctuary and specifically asked for a tour where they show all the animals they have and they talk about their mating habits specifically. Like that's what the educational tour was on. And I was like, hold on. First date, you're looking for love. You want to get married. Like that's what he said he wanted, right? And then he's like, I'm going to bring her to this zoo. Cute. We're going to learn about a lot of things. Cute. But the whole tour was only about their mating habits. And I was like, hold on. If they put that in with the other stuff, I wouldn't find it weird at all. But that was all they talked about. And I thought it was so funny. Because he said something to the girl when she first walked up and was like, yeah, we're going to learn about the animals and how they mate. She was like, oh, you, you know. And then like the lady comes up. She's like, welcome to our sanctuary. We're going to be talking about the mating habits of these animals. And she goes, oh, you weren't joking. Like, the way she said it was so funny. And he was like, haha, yeah, wink. Like he thought it was so fucking cool. And then she was like, ooh, which some girls would actually like love that. That's fine. But then like she was just not that girl, you know? So I felt so bad for her. And the thing is, she actually did really like the guy. Like, and he was nice, he was funny, and he didn't make any missteps except for that one. It was just such a weird one. Like, his only misstep was that when he went on the first date with her, he was like, the tour is only going to talk about mating habits. And the first scene, when they walk out into the area, they go and they see some type of like monkey, lemur, something like that. And the woman's pointing it out, and they have like the whole lower half of it blurred on the show, the whole lower half. And it just zooms to the guy and he goes, is that its penis? And the lady, what's her name? The tour guide. She was like, yeah, they love presenting. I was just like, the way she goes, they love presenting was so funny. And he was like, huh, some men do too. Ha ha. But the thing is, like, the way he said it was actually really funny. So I laughed. I was like, okay, he's funny. It's fine. And then the thing starts like, it starts pissing on its hands and rubbing it on its body. And she was like, they do something what was it called? It wasn't called a piss shower. It was called, it was like urinary shower's not the word. They were showering. It was how they clean themselves. And she was like, it's because it's like mostly sterile. So they use that to clean themselves. And I'm looking at the girl's face while they're talking about this. And she's like smiling, but her eyes are wide. I was like, I was just, I don't know. It was a really funny episode because like, I think she was struggling with herself on the inside because she did like him. This was the only weird thing he did. Everything else was so normal. And she was like, I love the country. So, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. They did say at the end of the episode, they always do like a little recap and they show the two people and they talk about like, since the filming of the episode, like what's their status. And those two were still together. They were like, they had several dates since then and seemed to be all right. So, you know, I think it just goes to show that if someone likes someone, they'll do crazy shit. And it's okay. It's all right, I guess. You like when shows do that? I do too. I get really tired of like these dating shows because they're so messy. They're so funny to watch. Like it's just the most fun content to watch. But they don't always update. You know? They don't always tell you like what happened after. And I just want to know so bad, like if it worked. We'll see. We'll see. Usually their lives get ruined like 80% of the time. Oh. Oh. Well, I think something that I see a lot of is a lot of those shows when those people do work out, they become like a celebrity couple, and usually not like, you know, an A-list celebrity couple. It's just like some people follow them on Instagram or whatever and keep up with them, and they push content out to this small fan base, and then they usually have like a nuclear breakup, and that makes them famous. That's the one that really pushes them. And that's like, it's so, I shouldn't be so interested in it, but I love keeping track of that stuff. I love hearing about it. Like, I don't think about these people for a while, but I watched that episode of that show they were on, and then 3 years later, some article shows up, and it's like, do you know these people? Remember them? This is what happened! And it's some crazy shit. I love that. Yeah, the drama, man, the drama. It's so entertaining. Or some of them are like, they have entire shows together, like, God, what was her name? The woman with lots of kids. John and Kate plus 8. Do you remember that? When John and Kate had like this nuclear breakup and they were no longer married, and then she still had like 8 children. And she was the founder of the Karen hair. Hold on. The Kate hair. Ooh, if I search for that, I get Kate Middleton. No, I don't want. No, not Princess Kate. We need Kate Goslin, that's her name. God, she had the worst haircut. But, and I don't know if this, like, I feel like it originated from her. Not that she was the first person to ever have this haircut, but I feel like she was the one who made it happen. You ever see this one, the Karen hair? She had this haircut, and then, oh my God, I can't tell you how many like middle-aged women I heard be like, oh, it's so cute. It's like kind of fun. It's like kind of edgy, kind of fun. And then a bunch of like middle-aged women got this, and then it turned into the Karen haircut, which is so funny. Splashy said, how many dependents can you claim on your taxes? I'm pretty sure all of them, as long as they're legitimate dependents. Pretty sure. But yeah, remember this haircut, dude? That was her. She had that cut, man. That haircut's awful. I want to say something right now. That haircut fucking sucks. It sucks. It's terrible. Okay? It's terrible. It's very rare that it looks good on someone. And when it does look good on someone, it's because that person looks good. They're beautiful and everything looks good on them. Okay? When an average person puts that haircut on their head, it makes them look worse. All right? That's how I feel on that. That's how I feel. I don't think I'd have ever seen anyone put that haircut on and look better. Even a beautiful person doing that doesn't look better with it. It's just crazy. I was gonna have octuplets, I'd start an esports team with them. Well, no, it was like she had one set of quintuplets, right? 5, and then she had one and a set of twins. Hold on, what was it? It was from like IVF. Let me see. Yeah, they had twin girls. Oh no, and then sextuplets. They had 6 after that. Twins and then a set of 6. God, can you imagine having? Oh my god. Oh my god. I can't imagine. Oof. Oof. That's crazy. Remember Octomom? I do. That's nuts. I can't imagine being able to like raise those kids properly and do well by them without help, without a bunch of other adults around to help, like either hired help or family that spend time with them. Because I don't know, personally, I feel like to raise a kid well, you need to give them attention. You need to give kids attention. And yes, kids can give each other attention, but it's not the same as like an adult with guided attention and all of that. Like I think you need to do that. So I know I had a friend who had twins. Even just having 2, she had her mother over all the time so that they could hold them, and you know, if one needed consoling, they go and console that one alone so it feels fully attended to and everything. Because something I've learned that they've been doing studies on is if they find that when you have a lot of kids in a room and you're consoling the one that needs consoling the most, and there's another one that's like mildly upset, but they're not getting attention because you're busy with one, they feel neglected, and they end up having a lot of long-term effects from like early childhood neglect, even if you did your best. Like even if you did your best, right? Because when you have one baby, you're just there for everything, right? So I don't know. Then I think about someone having 6 at once, and I'm like, ooh, ooh. I feel like even if you do your fucking best, it's tough. Now, she did have the twins beforehand. I don't know how much older they were than the others. If you have older kids that can take care of the younger kids, then that's a lot better. Not take care of, but just like be there to help a little bit. They don't have to do all the work, but to just like spend time with them, then they don't really feel nearly as neglected. So that kind of stuff is like good, I guess, but she just had 2, and I think their ages weren't that far off. So I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, Blazing says rough being one of a pile. Yeah, I have a friend who's one of 4, a set of 4 quadruplets, and she had some related issues to that, and no fault of her parents, because it was just her mom. Her dad existed but was just working all the time, you know, and it was just her mom taking care of 4 kids alone. You do your best, but like you only have 2 arms, you know, and then 1 brain, 1 set of eyes, like 1 mouth. What are you gonna do, you know? So I know it's definitely rough. Definitely rough. Just give 2 out of 4 a tablet and a watch. You put one in the corner, make them the iPad kid, and see how they grow up separately from the others. They watch nothing but surprise egg videos. That kid becomes obsessed with Sonic and surprise eggs. Guaranteed. Guaranteed, man. That's nuts. Yeah, control group it. That's the thing, is like, I'm always so curious about what would happen with experiments like that, but I also ethically don't think you should do that. But sometimes there are like really fucked up scenarios that happen that people are then able to use as a case study later. Or like things like, you know, twins separated at birth kind of thing. They're able to then use that as a case study for later, but they didn't like purposefully separate them for the study, you know? And I always love reading about stuff like that. Or like there was like that one kid that was actually legit raised by wolves a long time ago. Yeah, the feral kid. There was like that one, which, you know, no one is going to put a kid in a forest and be like, yo, let's hope these wolves raise this child. You know, nobody's doing that. But should you run into it, I love seeing them study and, you know, figure out what's going on with that. It's so interesting to read about. The research could be fascinating. Yeah, so long as it's not like done on purpose, right? Because that gets crazy. But it's really interesting to see people run into those situations and be like, okay, since it already happened, what can we learn from it? You know, there are a lot of twin studies like that. A lot of like adoption stories and things where, you know, someone is not keeping the twins that they had or can only keep one due to financial situation or whatever it is, and they end up separating them, and then they come back together later in life. There's a lot more people doing this and talking about it on social media. And yeah, like one of you said, like there's so many similarities that they end up having that it's crazy, and they could never know each other, they could speak different languages, and yeah, it's still like there's a lot that they'll end up having in common, even in personality sometimes. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Cool to study, but the thing you wish wouldn't happen. All right. I gotta do I want a game, guys. I want a game. We're about to hit 2 hours. I'm gonna game. I'm checking to make sure I didn't forget anything. Making sure I got everything. I think we have oh yeah, we have a command. I did set that up. Exclamation point, mind's eye. Okay. There we go. I was just making sure I sent over notes. I'm flagging when the segment is starting for them so they have the timestamp. Is there anything else I need to do? No, there's nothing I need to do. Nothing I need to do. I am on a single PC setup and I don't have a 5090. With the way this game looks, I have a feeling with my model and everything might run a little rough. Like my model might die. I might go PNG mode or even just the sock puppet. I'm not sure which yet. We'll open it. I did open the game earlier. And it ran just fine, but it was also like early cutscene just opening just so I can check settings and everything. So we'll see. I don't know, but if I have to just turn off model, I can do that. Either way, we'll get it working. And I'm reading over. Is there anything I'm forgetting? No, not at all. Okay, this is going to be on almost all platforms. This will not be a Switch game, but this will be available on PS5, Xbox, Steam, and Epic Games Store for PC. Okay, so if you want to get it, if you want to look at any of it, you have to do exclamation point mind's eye. All right. No clue what the game is about, actually. We'll see. I've been trying really hard to not spoil myself because I had a lot of friends that were playing it today, so, and I wanted to stop in and be like, hey, what's going on? But I didn't want to be spoiled, so, you know. Yeah, there's the list. So that is we have it pinned, right? Yeah, we do. I have a link. If you want to check it out, whether you're buying it or not, please do click the link and just at least look. Something that I actually really like, that I was reading over, because I was just reading over the description of it as best I could so I didn't get spoiled. They're planning later to release multiplayer and have it be a bit more open world when you get to like that kind of stuff. But the game, the main story is linear. Thank God. Thank God, because games of this type, I actually much prefer when you just get taken through a story and you don't have these big open world sections. But they will have a more open world sort of thing that you can do later on. I think that's planned content for later. That was a note I had seen was it will be fully open world. But for now it's just campaign and you just go through, which is honestly really refreshing. I'm tired of everything being open world right when you get into it. I get kind of like choice paralyzed, and I much prefer to play through something that keeps me through a story on rails so I can like be paced nicely. And yeah, they were saying later this year is when the multiplayer is going to come out. So I'm excited for that. Okay, let's go into it. Let's go into it. There's also something that I had seen them talk about with, like, you can do like map creation and stuff. You can do, there's a lot of extra stuff in here that looks really interesting for extra stuff you can do beyond the campaign. And I assume with them wanting to add multiplayer later, there's going to be a lot more of that. But it's neat. Monthly DLCs will be available as well according to the link. Yeah, keep in mind this is the same publisher as Hitman, and one thing I really trust them on is just keeping content pumping out. Hitman, at least, obviously this is on the studio specifically, but Hitman has these regular events that come out. They take a lot of existing maps and content, they add to it. They add new missions. That's what when they did their showcase, that's why they brought out Mads Mikkelsen, right? They have a character that looks like him, is voiced by him, and it's this new character that they've got. And it's just a whole new chunk of story and everything. And they do this, and they've been doing this for years. So yeah, so when they say like, oh yeah, we're gonna do like a monthly thing for this, I very much so believe it, because they're already doing that with Hitman. Okay, BGM off.